All right, welcome everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is a hearing
Recording in progress.
Committee of Adjustment for the Town of Grimsby. I'm just going to introduce the committee members first and staff. So on the committee, there's 5 of us. We have Dylan Bailey. Dylan, if you just wave for everyone, thank you. Danielle Beck, Danielle, Adam Mottershead, Adam. Herb Nobes is absent this evening, and myself as chair, Kevin Antonitis. The staff members this evening we have is our Walter Basic, Assistant Director of Planning, Walter, and Michaela Bray is Assistant Secretary Treasurer who set the meeting up. So just going to make some announcements and procedural issues before we begin. So members of the public are advised that our meetings are live streamed by the Town of Grimsby. Individuals and media may be audibly and or visually recorded during this meeting. As a reminder, all electronic devices are to be in silent mode during our committee meeting, and also a reminder about if you can remain on mute until you're ready to speak makes for a lot better for everybody. Regarding the meeting procedures themselves, for the purpose of the Zoom meeting, applicants will be placed in the waiting room until your application is heard. The purpose of the application relative correspondence will be heard, following which the applicant will be given an opportunity to address the application. Any person concerned with the application will then be given an opportunity to speak. At the conclusion of the discussion, the committee will render a decision and advise of any applicable conditions. Copies of the decisions will be mailed to the applicant or agent and to any person that files a written request through Michaela. Any person, corporation, public body has the right to appeal either the decision itself or the conditions of consent to the Ontario Land Tribunal, the OLT, within 20 days of the date of the decision for consent to sever and 20 days for the date of decision for minor variance applications. Everyone present will be given an opportunity to comment through the application on the applications being heard. Please address your comments and questions through the chair. Each participant will be provided 10 minutes to speak. Each participant may speak only once. If you hear your comment presented by someone else, please do not duplicate the remarks. When you're called, we ask that you state your name and address for the record as well. Agencies commenting on applications may request that certain conditions be imposed. Voicing objections to these conditions will not adversely affect the committee's decision. All members of the committee have viewed the properties on the agenda tonight and are familiar with the lands that are subject to the applications. So I'm going to call for a disclosure of interest. Any members of the committee have a pecuniary interest in the matters before us this evening? No, just shake their head or nod. Neither do I. And the first item, I guess, is any withdrawal or adjournment requests.
One request for withdrawal.
Okay, and then that's for 89 Ridge Road West. But before we get to that one, I'm just going to have the committee members approve the minutes. Were there any questions or comments about the meeting minutes on April 19th? None. Do I have a mover and a seconder on those minutes then? Dylan and Adam? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye or raise their hand for the screen, makes it easier and quicker. Opposed, if any, was carried. Okay, then the first, I'll give Michaela a minute to put everybody in the waiting room, and then we'll deal with the applications as they arise. So the first one is 489 Ridge Road West. We'll see everybody in a few minutes, hopefully. Okay, Michaela, you want to take us through the first request?
Yep.
Withdrawal?
So there's no presentation for this one, but there's been a request for withdrawal and subsequently a request for a refund. So in the planning report, planning staff recommended that a full report a full refund be given because we had missing information at the time of their pre-consultation meeting, and it didn't allow the applicants to have all the information to decide if they want to make an application. In particular, the information we were missing was from the region regarding their septic system, which we discussed last meeting. And this was an issue just because this is considered an undersized lot. So moving forward from this, planning staff are going to require formal pre-consultations that include the region and other relevant agencies for all undersized lots. So that is all for planning, and the information in the planning report is to help you decide on a reasonable resolution.
Thanks, Michaela. Are there any questions or comments from the committee members? I don't know if Jill and Stu are here. The applicants are here if you have questions with them as well. Adam? I wasn't sure who went up first, but I'm going to start with Adam. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question. It's actually more procedural. I'm in full support of the refund as stipulated by planning, but my question is, because in the fees bylaw, we don't actually have anything that provides our authority to give a refund. So I'm just wondering if at this point, we can only recommend a refund and council would actually approve until they can have a chance to update the bylaw.
Thank you for that. Did Michaela or Walter wish to comment? I know we have done it in the past. I believe the last one was the Catholic Church on Livingston, and I don't know what procedure happened to get that, whether we just recommended it or it happened right after our meeting. So maybe you can enlighten us, or Michaela or Walter.
Yeah, thank you through you, Mr. Chair. What was recommended by the treasurer is that we just get a resolution from the committee, and then they'll address it at a staff level.
Okay. Dylan?
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. I'm fully supportive of the staff's recommendation for full refund, but just wanted to ask, I know that it's when we've talked about this in the past, you know, when it comes to partial refunds and things like that, is there been any movement on a, you know, on a policy or bylaw moving forward, so things like this become more rote instead of simply as a one-off? Because I know that that was supposedly in the works, but just I mean, again, you know, I'm fully supportive, but I think that as time goes on, we may need more of these, and relying on other municipalities' procedures likely isn't going to be considered perhaps fair or equitable. So just curious if there's anything coming down the line. Thank you.
Thank you. Danielle, before Walter, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to confirm with staff that I understand that we don't actually have a policy in place for this, but based on the information that was provided in the staff report, most municipalities, after an application has been heard at a hearing, the percentage of refund does extremely decline. I understand that this is a bit of a unique situation because there was some miscommunication along the way, but I also do not want town staff to be not compensated for the work that was put into it. Understanding that there was administrative work put into this as well too. So I just wanted to double check and hear it from you guys in person that you are still comfortable with 100% refund and that you don't want to support at least a 25% kept for city staff, and maybe support like a 70% refund versus to recoup some staff cost for the amount of work that was put in, because a staff report was prepared. There was public notice circulated. There was a sign prepared. There was a lot of work that was put in to the previous hearing on this. I just don't want to see a loss on the town's side of it. So not to ask a question that has already been answered by the report, but I am asking again, are we 100% comfortable with 100% refund? And is it just because of the nature of the situation? Thank you.
Thank you. Walter, did you wish to comment?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we are comfortable with the full refund for the reasons stated in the report with regard to a policy, and we will be doing a comprehensive review of our fee bylaw and our fee structure for the start of next year. So we will be going through the process through the end of this year. And it is at that time, I believe, that we'll, because there may be other, and not just committee of adjustment application fees, there may be other application fees not necessarily even associated with planning, but maybe even associated with other departments that we may want to consider as part of this policy. So we felt it was better to do it on a comprehensive basis than at an ad hoc basis. We thought this was going to be a one-off. Now it's a two-off. We didn't think there'd be any more, but again, because of the circumstances, we felt it would be unfair to not refund the full fee to these particular applicants.
All right, no further questions, but I just see Danielle's hand is up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I was just going to move for a full refund. Thank you.
Okay, seconder. Dylan? Oh, sorry. Dylan, did you have a question or were you voting? Sorry, your hand's still up on the... All right, so we'll go Danielle, Dylan. Any further discussion on the motion for a full refund? All those in favor say aye. We'll do it this way. Quicker. Opposed, if any, was carried. Just give me a minute here. Okay, the next application is the first minor variance before us this evening. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Jill and Stu, for attending again for your request. If there was any questions, luckily there weren't. So a refund is heading your way, assuming council approves it, if it has to go to that level. Or it's staff level, you said, sorry. Staff.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And do you know approximately how long that will take?
Walter?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you, unfortunately. Probably no less than a week.
Okay, all right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so the next application, I'll give the applicants a minute. Minor variance A1522. Oh, sorry, A2022 13 Udall Way.
Hello.
Hi, Marnie.
Hi there. This is Marnie Gorgachuk of 13 Udall Way.
Hi, Marty. We're just going to have Michaela go through the application and
Okay.
the staff report and read any comments that we've received, and then we'll open it up for the committee. Sorry, yourself and then the committee.
Okay.
Thank you.
So application A2022 13 Udall Way. It's a minor variance to facilitate the installation of a swimming pool. And the variance is to permit a swimming pool in the exterior side yard, whereas swimming pools are permitted in the rear yard only. Here is the plan submitted by the applicant, the same one that was sent out on the notice. Aerial imagery showing the lot. And for correspondence from the planning department, no objections to the variance. Public Works also has no concerns. They just note that the existing rear yard swale is to be maintained during and post-construction for the full length of the property. From the Conservation Authority, no concerns. From Heritage, no concerns. And from CN Rail, no concerns. Thank you.
All right, Marnie, did you wish to elaborate at all on the application or the reason for the request, or going to let the staff report stand and we can open up to questions from the committee?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, did you have any questions or comments? No, if not, then do we have a motion on the application and the reasons for that, for your motion? Keeping in mind the 4 tests. Dylan, so moved?
So moved that the application meets the 4 tests. And do we need to attach the condition from Public Works, Mr. Chair? Or with
Yes,
that
we
being
would.
noted? Yes.
I
So
don't
with
see
that
it
condition,
on the-
please.
But I don't see the condition written on the
Yeah, through
sheet.
the chair, I think that was just a comment from Public Works. I spoke with Bernie and he didn't mention having it as a condition. They just noted that it needs to be maintained. So if you wanted to add it as a condition, but it wasn't a requirement from Public Works.
Yeah, just for everybody's benefit, it's something that's in the subdivision agreement, and it's the approved lot grading plan when the house was built. So it's all identified on those plans, and and the subdivision agreement is registered on title.
So adding it as a condition would just be redundant.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's fine. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
thank you. Seconder? Danielle? Or is that a question? Is that a question or?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, through you,
Okay,
Mr. Chair. I was just
sorry.
going to ask that I would assume that inspections will be done, and that's how we could confirm that that rear swale will be maintained, assuming, Mr. Basic?
Yes, usually when with a pool construction, I think there's a bond that's required to be submitted with the application.
Yes, okay, thank you for the clarification. But yes, I would also second the
All right,
application.
perfect. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye or raise their hand. Opposed, if any, is carried. Thank you. There is a 20-day appeal period before it becomes final and binding. Thank you, Marnie.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Good evening.
You too.
Okay, the next application is A2122 414 Bartlett Avenue. Michaela, I'll let you set up and wait for the applicant to come in. Is it Leo and Terry?
Yes, it's Leo Chardelli and
Terry Chaston.
Thank you. We're just going to ask you to go on mute again if you could, and then Michaela will go through the presentation, then we'll open up for questions and comments.
So application A2122, it's for 414 Bartlett Avenue. Just to clarify who is in attendance, Leo is the architect, Peter is the homeowner, and Terry is the daughter of the homeowner. So this is a minor variance to facilitate the construction of a one-story addition to an existing single detached dwelling and an addition of a one-story attached garage. So the variances that they are looking for is to permit a lot coverage of 28.2%, whereas that's supposed to say 25% is permitted, to permit an interior side yard to the north of 0.9 meters, whereas 1.8 meters is required, and to permit an interior side yard to the south, a setback of 1.2 meters, whereas 1.8 meters is required. Here is the plan that was submitted by the applicant. It's the same one that was on the notice. Here is the aerial photography of the lot and the surrounding neighborhood. The current street view from Google Maps. And for correspondence, planning staff, they have no objections. From Public Works, they would request a grading plan as a condition of approval, and they would like that to demonstrate that there's ample width for building maintenance, given that the side yard is reduced to 0.9 meters. And they also note that drainage swales will be required in these side yards. From the Conservation Authority, no concerns. From Heritage, no concerns. And from CN Rail, again, no concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Leo, did you wish to elaborate on the application or respond to any comments or conditions?
yes, please, thank you. First of all, thank you for taking our application for the minor variance. I read through the comments as Michaela has described with the departments and staff. It appears there's no objections to what we're proposing, except for the comments on page 32 regarding the side yard swales. The current side yard swale of 0.9 meters is already existing on the house and to my knowledge functions fine. The width increases slightly for the addition portion, and I've suggested that we probably use a heavy geocloth and potato stone to maintain that area and create the swale that will continue to flow to the east side of the property and the backyard. And with the 4-foot side yard or 1.2 meter side yard on the south side, I think that's ample room to supply a swale. And we will be submitting a grading permit with the plot plan for the building permit submission anyway. So I hope that that's sufficient to cover that concern.
Okay, thank
Do
you.
you need that ahead of time?
I don't think so. No, it's going to be part of the permit.
Okay.
I'm going to open up to the committee members first. Is there anybody have a question? Dylan, you have your hand up. Thank you. Question?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, sorry. Just to confirm, so on the north interior side yard of 0.9, I wanted to ask, so that is existing? Because I wasn't sure if the house itself was was going out as well. So that's just making, we're just confirming what's already there. Is that correct?
Nothing's being changed on the existing dwelling. So that's where the dwelling exists right now with that 0.9 side yard. Yes.
So
The other reason for continuing on that, it's not notated in the site plan. However, there's a basement window at the northeast corner of the house. And if we were to use the 1.8 side yard, that would become a structural issue.
So we're just legalizing that as part of that. Is that correct, Mr.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, or are we just acknowledging?
Well, it's going to continue. It's maintaining the existing side yard setback, but for the new one, a 1.8 would be required. So they're requesting a reduction of 0.9, which will be in line with the existing house.
Okay.
Correct.
I apologize.
Yes.
Thank you.
So it probably was a different requirement back then, or because it's a one-story, it maybe required a different setback back in the day, but he's maintaining, or they are maintaining, if I understand it correctly, the existing building line and following it all the way down the new addition side. That's correct in that, Leo?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Thank you for the clarification.
Any questions? Danielle, I saw your hand up at one time, but sorry, everybody went to small screens or small windows again, so I can't necessarily see anybody. Any other questions? No? Do I have a mover and a seconder on this application with the reasons for approval with the suggested condition from Public Works? Danielle?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I will move that the application is approved, that it meets the intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw, that it is minor. I agree that the reduced side yards, especially maintaining the north side yard setback for the addition and the south side yard, south side yard setback reduction to 1.2 meters is minor, and that the minor increase of the 3.2% lot coverage is also minor, and that it's desirable for the appropriate development of the lands, with the condition of the submission of the grading plan to the satisfaction of Public Works.
Thank you. A seconder on that? Adam? Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye or raise their hand. Opposed, if any, was carried. Thank you. And there is a 20-day appeal period before it becomes final and binding. Thanks for attending this evening.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, we'll wait for Michaela to set up for the next one. 436 Maple Avenue, application A2222.
Okay, application A2222 for 36 Maple Avenue. They are looking for minor variances to facilitate the construction of a new single detached dwelling. And in particular, the variances they are looking for is to permit a lot coverage of 30%, whereas 25% is permitted, and to permit a front yard setback of 4.5 meters, whereas 12.54 meters is permitted. This shows the site plan. It's the same one that was circulated on the notice. Aerial photography showing the site as well as the context of the surrounding neighborhood. The current conditions of the site were current of November 2001 or 2021. This is the site looking from Maple Avenue. So this is the front yard. And then looking from Lake Street. So this is the exterior side yard. And for correspondence from planning, there are no objections. From Public Works, no objections. From the region, they acknowledge that the property has existing service connections that do not cross the regional forest main on Lake Street. Therefore, regional staff do not object to the proposed development, provided that the existing laterals are utilized. Should the applicant need a new servicing connection, regional staff will need to be informed at the building permit stage. And from the remaining agencies, they have no concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Michaela. Is the applicant or their agent here? Osama? Or is it Attila?
Attila and Sherry.
Okay.
Yes, hi.
Go ahead. Did you wish to add or explain anything about the application request?
Sure.
I don't think so. We are not hoping. We will be keeping the home to make it, flow with the rest of the neighborhood.
And basically building a home for ourselves.
It's for our family.
We're looking at the layout as that's why we're asking for the variances. Basically, we have 4 kids and are looking at having a 5th one join us. So basically, for the way that we're planning the house, I mean, it was necessary for that variance of
number of
bedrooms and garage space for bikes and everything as well, right? So, I mean, we tried to work with what we had, but it wasn't working out. So that's why we applied for the variances.
Okay, thank you. Osama, I didn't know if you were on for questions or comments.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman and committee members. Good evening, city staff. Originally, Attila approached me to have kind of renovation and addition to the existing house. We figured out like with the way to have it work for the size of his family, it didn't work well. Then he said, you know what, it looked like it's going to cost too much to do this addition. And maybe it's better than just to have a new house. However, we tried to work with the existing zoning bylaw. Also, the reason of requesting to extend or to have relief of the front setback, because the 12.5 meter requested practically will not leave because of the nature of the property. If you look at the site plan, if we draw a line where our main entrance now, you have to go back to the left, actually almost another 10 feet to accommodate that setback, which is absolutely nothing left to build a house there. Okay, just because of the nature of the property and the corner of it. It's corner. The other thing, to accommodate the size of the house they are requesting, we need to increase the size of the coverage area a little bit. Practically we propose now a little bit bigger than what they wanted, just in case we don't want to, during the design stage, when we finalize it, we don't have to go for minor variance. So, but most likely the house will be smaller a little bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Committee members, did you have any questions? I have one that came up. Somebody had emailed me that was nearby, knowing I was on the committee. It wasn't sent through staff, but just a question regarding those 2 large trees. Yes. They're not, I don't see them on the plan, but are they being maintained, or are they? I'm asking on behalf of a former committee member that used to always ask, are you retaining the trees? That was Paul Satimi. But right
now the trees are being retained. I actually put an orange fence around it as well, to show that we are keeping the trees. And as we're doing the construction too, the plan is to, we might have to trim it down a bit because they are overhanging and we don't want to touch the house. But the plan is to keep it because of the privacy and the beauty. And I mean, it does have, I guess the previous owner put a plaque on it that said like pre-1900 on it. So, I mean, we kind of want to keep that plaque up as well. Right.
That's good. Good.
Yeah.
So I can't tell, are they actually on town property or are they on yours?
No, they're actually on our property.
Oh, they are.
The
Okay.
survey pointed out that it is actually our property.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
And
what we
then
put the thing on. Yeah, sorry.
I have another question. It was kind of unique. So, and maybe it's a question for Walter. When owners share a driveway like that, like I noticed you can just drive over your driveway into the neighbors. I guess that's just as long as you two are cooperating. I assume there's nothing registered like a right of way or an easement or anything like that on title. So as long as you two are getting along, you can cut across his front lawn and he can cut across your driveway. Is that?
Yeah, so it was a verbal agreement with the previous owners because it's family members.
They were brothers.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
brothers. But we're wanting to keep the driveway where it is already to accommodate that drive-through for them. We probably won't be using it. We haven't used it yet whenever we've come and gone from the property. But we want to leave that for them since they've been using it all of these years.
Yeah,
So
we met
did-
them and they're a really nice older couple. And that's why they're like, well, are you going to cut it off? And we're like, no, let's redesign how we're looking for the house. This way the driveway can still stay and they can also use it as well, that the way they've been using it. So.
Okay. I mean, it makes it safer for that corner. I did
Yeah.
use it. I'll be honest. I did use their front lawn to turn around instead of backing out,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
But
No,
I was
like,
just curious.
yeah, no, there's nothing registered on title, but we're perfectly happy to leave it the way it's been.
Yeah,
It's
and-
been there all these years. Might as well leave it.
And then
Okay.
having the garage at the side there too is how we're planning on doing it. This way, when we turn in and back out, we're facing lake then. This way, it's a
Right.
lot easier to turn out to traffic and we're not backing out into traffic.
Right.
So that was like the reasoning behind that as well,
Yeah.
to keep the safety up.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee members? If not, then do I have a motion with reasons? Adam?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Motion to approve the 2 variances as requested for the reasons that they meet the 4 tests, meet the official plan, zoning bylaw, desirable for the development of land, and they're minor.
Thank you. A seconder? Dylan? Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye or raise their hand. Opposed, if any? Was
Sorry,
carried.
Mr.
Oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
Mr. Chair. And that would be with the 3 conditions, correct?
There is.
On the resolution?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find, it's not on the resolution sheet, but I,
Oh, is the one I have it follows it. About the licensed arborist, construction, fencing and grading
Yeah.
plan?
That's for 2 Balmoral.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm not
I
sure
don't
if
have
they
that.
might have got mixed up, but this one has no conditions.
Oh, I apologize. I'm ahead of,
yeah, you're one ahead. Yeah,
I was gonna start writing as you were saying it. 'cause
Yeah,
I didn't
I
know
know.
about this.
okay, my version doesn't have anything on it, but, okay, no problem. So as approved as outlined by Adam. And we had the vote, opposed if any, none, was carried. So again, there's a 20-day appeal period before it becomes final and binding.
Okay.
Thank you for attending. Have a good evening.
Oh,
Thank
thank you
you
so
very
much.
much.
Thank you. Pleasure meeting you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Hi,
night.
guys from Willow Lane.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, the next application is for 2 Balmoral A0322. Just giving Michaela a minute to set up and make sure everybody's in the,
Just a quick question for Dave. Are you here for 2 Balmoral or for Main Street West? Because there's 2 Davids.
Main Street West, but
Okay.
I'll
just
really
gonna-
just be listening in.
Okay, I'm just going to put you back in the waiting room for 2 Balmoral and then we'll discuss Main Street later.
Sure.
Okay.
yeah, Michaela, go ahead.
Thank you. So application 0322 for 2 Balmoral Avenue. Some minor variances to facilitate the construction of a new single detached 2-story dwelling. They are requesting to permit a lot coverage of 28.7%, whereas 25% is what is permitted. To permit an interior side yard of 1.2 meters, whereas 3 meters is permitted. To permit an exterior side yard of 3.21 meters, whereas 6 meters is permitted. And to permit a building depth of 23.3 meters, whereas 20 meters is permitted. And just to note, this application was deferred back in January 2022. So here is the plan that was submitted by the applicant. It's the same one that was circulated on the notice. Aerial photography showing the subject site as well as the context of the neighborhood surrounding. This photo was taken by town staff with the current conditions of the site. So it was taken May 13th. For correspondence, planning has no objections. Public Works has no objections, but they have the following comments. So they comment to ensure that all existing trees and root systems are not damaged and must be protected from excavation. And then as a condition, they're asking that the owner shall provide a plan from a licensed arborist showing appropriate tree hoarding protection fencing, and this shall be installed prior to any excavation. They also note existing hedging on the east side on 4 Balmoral Avenue, on 4 Balmoral must be protected, and the owner is required to install construction fencing along the outer limit of the existing hedging to protect from over excavation and to protect from damage to the root system. The owner shall provide a proposed grading plan to the town for review prior to issuance of any permits. And they also note that the tree hoarding protection and the construction fencing can be shown on this proposed grading plan. They note that any alteration to the driveway will require a town entrance permit. And the applicant is advised that swales shall be shown on the grading plan at the building permit stage. From the Conservation Authority, Heritage, and CN Rail, there were no concerns or comments. And Grimsby Power. We received 4 letters from neighbors. They all voiced opposition. These were from 16 and 18 Rosslyn and 1 and 4 Balmoral. These mostly voiced concerns with the increase to the lot coverage and the impact on the neighborhood character, as the house appears to potentially be larger than those on the existing street. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Michaela. Is the applicant or their agent here wish to elaborate or explain and maybe respond to some of the comments, conditions, and letters? Is it Bruno?
Yes, hi.
Oh, sorry, Danielle.
Yeah.
Sorry, before I begin, Danielle, you had your hand up.
Yeah, sorry. Through you, Mr. Chair. It appears that I'm missing a piece of public communication from 18 Rosslyn. I only have 16 Rosslyn, and then I only have 1 Balmoral and 4 Balmoral. That was posted in the last agenda.
Through the chair, I believe 18 Rosslyn came in last, so there might have been one more update. It should be in the current agenda.
Okay.
Can we email those now, or?
I'll go back and then I'll double check, but I went in and I grabbed it from the last.
It got updated a few times today.
I know it makes it tricky.
Yeah.
Not watching at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock.
Yeah. I apologize. I'll keep looking for that right
No
now.
problem.
While
Do we have them separately? Do we have the letters separately, or are these the owners here?
Nobody is here who wrote a letter.
Then maybe we should circulate the letters if you can. Can you flip them to the committee? Just to be fair. Sorry, Bruno, we'll
No problem.
get you to start in a minute.
Yeah, it's okay.
Or is there a way to put it on the screen quickly and go over the highlights? That might be quicker before we open it up.
If you download the agenda right now, I see all four. So I don't know if it's just a matter of refreshing the agenda online. I can share the agenda as well right now.
Or maybe share those 4 letters quickly.
Yep.
That might be quicker. Then we're all looking at the same thing.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
perfect.
It is online. It must have been a very
Yeah.
late update.
So the first one, 16 Rosslyn. If everyone just wants to take a minute to read it.
That's the one we
I
saw
also
on
just
Friday.
downloaded it as well too. Thank you. I apologize about that.
No
Okay.
problem. I know there's a couple updates. I had the same issue.
Did we want to read this now or move on?
I think we'll move to the second and third, I think if we move to the second and third one, or the third and fourth one.
So this one's from 4 Balmoral. From 1 Balmoral. And 18 Rosslyn.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I just have a really quick question, maybe for Michaela. Do we have a street view elevation of this 2-story property or this
Of
proposed?
the applicant, you mean?
Through the chair, and Bruno can elaborate on this. I think the applicants wanted to get the variances figured out before spending for services to create the elevation renderings.
Oh, okay, thank you.
In fact, can I speak to that?
Yeah. Why don't we allow Daniel? Daniel, did you have a question?
I apologize. I do have a question, but let's go back to regular procedure now that we've
Yeah.
had an opportunity to review the letter. We were all set in order now. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so go ahead, Bruno, if you want to make your presentation, and then we'll open it up to the committee members, and if there is any public, do that as well.
Okay, as Michaela did say, if I can address that concern about we were talking about the elevation, and my client had proposed a single floor bungalow, and there was some major concerns with that plan, and the variances were pretty much good in terms of the committee's side of things. The only issue was the large tree that they didn't factor into the plan, and was some source of consternation. So in lieu of building that property, my client had the entire plan redesigned at great cost and went with a 2-story plan to accommodate the movement of the garage and the entrance to the garage, which was the serious concern there. So he advised me that at that point he would, prefer to get obviously the variances put to rest, and then he would provide all of the additional information required regarding elevations, swales, the whole kit and caboodle. So really, from my client's perspective, the only thing that has changed is obviously it's a 2-story house now, but the major thing that we were asked to tend to was the repositioning of the garage and the driveway, and we got the architect, designer to do that and try to make everybody happy with that. So there's really not much else I can speak to, because nothing else has really changed in terms of all of the other variances that were requested, which seem to be fairly well accepted by the committee.
Thank you. I'm going to open up to the committee first, then Dylan, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to ask, the reason why I asked for an elevation potentially, and I understand the client's point of view and cost and everything else, I'm sympathetic for that. But I mean, I'm looking at the 4 letters. There was, I think, originally just 1. Now there are 4, and time can allow that, I would imagine. But sort of we talk, we hear words like, monster houses and, et cetera. So, can I get perhaps some kind of, again, okay, so perhaps 1, has the applicant tried to address any of these issues with the neighbors. I think number 4 is not going to be happy at all, but certainly isn't here tonight. But talking about sort of height, size, sunshine, privacy, those sorts of things. Perhaps you can comment generally on those. I mean,
is that for me, sir?
Yeah,
I would think so, Mr. Rebecca.
So maybe, Bruno, it would also help the committee kind of summarizing the difference of the floor plans. I don't know if you have a side by side of what was proposed previously, square footage, coverage, setbacks versus what is now.
Yeah. Well, see, square footage wise, we would have been less square footage, but similar lot coverage with the 1 floor plan, because obviously it would be more sprawling. This would be more of a confined first floor area because we're going up. But in terms of, so it would be, a bigger square footage, but in terms of height, it would not exceed the bylaw limitations, and it would not be any higher than the house that, the peak of the house would not be any higher than the house that was demolished. So from that perspective, I mean, there's a home directly across the street, which was built, I believe, in the last few years, brand new, and it's quite a large home, and it's probably the similar size to what my client proposes to build. As for the facade, I can't speak to that. I mean, if there's an aversion to brick, that's something that we would have to deal with. I mean, I don't know if there's any restriction on what we can do in terms of dressing the house up, but certainly size-wise and sitting on the lot, it would sit in the similar parameters to the original plan, only that we would have, in essence, a second floor, which would not exceed any bylaws heights restrictions.
Danielle?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as of right, you can build a 2-story dwelling and there are no variances asking for an increase in height. Is that correct, Bruno?
Yes. Well, we are saying we will meet the requirements of the height restrictions. Yes.
Correct. And previously there was, if I remember correctly, like a 1.5-story type dwelling there. Yeah.
But the peak of the house was obviously at probably close to the same height as what we will ensure that it will not pass the height. Well, we can't anyway. We just
and correct, yeah. Across the street there, it looks like there's across Rossland, to be specific, there's a 2-story or maybe a modified 1.5-story with dormers across the street that looks like was recently reconstructed. My only concern really is with the interior side yard setback of that reduction abutting for Balmoral. Just because you're going up and you are going to your maximum permitted height of 2 stories and you're going to comply with that height, I have concerns with reducing that interior side yard. Going closer, you're going up to your maximum height, going closer to that interior yard. I mean, there's a reason why when you go up higher, you need to provide a larger setback. Walter, question for you. If this was a 1-story house, what would be the interior side yard requirement?
Same
3 meters, no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm at this time, I'm on the fence about the interior side yard. And if it was to comply with the 3 meters, you'd have to reduce your footprint, which means you probably could also comply with the lot coverage requirement of 25%. So as for the building depth, your corner lot, I don't think there's going to be much concern, in my opinion, from a streetscaping. You have a long lot, it makes sense to use that frontage. And from an exterior side yard, I don't have concerns with bringing the building closer to the street in that area. So those are just my comments. I would love to hear what the other committee members have to say. And if there's anybody from the public as well too, that is in the meeting versus what we've heard from letters at this time. So
Can I respond?
I would love to hear, yes.
Yeah,
Yes, please.
thank you, Danielle. Bruno, if you want to respond first, and then Adam has his hand up as well.
Sure. With respect to the actual height, we have to be cognizant of the fact that the roof line will, not go straight up. So it would not be a square box extending the full height of the dwelling. In essence, at the 1-story level, it would start to taper into the house to create the roof lines. So there wouldn't be a real hard hit on available light, I don't think, in terms of a 1-story or tilting the roof into to create that nice roof line. So that's the only comment I have to that. But again, we really worked hard to try and get around that corner issue and the tree, and something had to give, and the applicant wanted to get some square footage there to make it a nice livable home, and as opposed to the sprawling ranch style house that he was going to build, which he couldn't because of the concerns. So that's my only take on the site and the height. So
thank you. Did we ever get a square footage out of you? What is the square footage proposed here versus?
I believe it was that was submitted. I believe Michaela, was it not? I don't know if it had it. Let me just check here.
I got to just make a comment that if Herb was here, you're getting off early, or you're getting off easy, because Herb would have adamantly requested elevations to get an idea of what you're proposing. So I think your client's kind of getting off easy with the 4 members here so far. Adam.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Pretty much Danielle hit upon what I was going to say about my concern with the interior side yard setback. I think when you go up with that proposed reduction, you're starting to introduce adverse effects on the private amenity area for Balmoral. So I have concerns about that variance as well.
Any suggestion for a mitigation, like a reduction, or something that you'd be happy with, or moving the building closer to the street to Rosslyn, and in lieu of that by, let's say, 2 meters, or instead of 1.2? Any suggested mitigating? Like 3 meters is quite a bit for a lot this size. Do you have a suggestion for a compromise?
Is that addressed to?
No, I'm sorry. I'm going to ask Adam if he has a thought on that.
Yeah, I'm not in the building profession, unfortunately. Maybe Walter can comment on what planning might suggest.
Walter.
Thank you. Through Mr. Chair, the reason we did not oppose this proposed side yard is because it's very similar to what the existing side yard was for the 1.5-story house. The portion that was abutting this particular side lot line, it was there is a second floor window, and then there are 3 windows on the main floor. So there was quite a bit of exposure to the neighboring property already. I'm looking at it right now on Google Maps, and it was a gable end that was facing. So there is essentially a 2-story, or there was essentially a 2-story building abutting that side lot line previously, and I measured the setback to be approximately 1.4 meters, and what's being proposed is 1.2 meters. So for that reason, we didn't object. The portion of the proposed building that's abutting Rosslyn, that's projecting closer to Rosslyn than the zoning permits, is approximately the same footprint as the previous existing house that was on there. So so essentially you have like the existing house, and then you have projections to the north and projection to the south, that would be set back almost next to Roslyn to the compliant amount, with the exception of the portion abutting the easterly side lot line. Again, the existing dwelling, the reason we supported this application was because the existing dwelling was approximately 1.4 meters, and there was a 2-story wall facing that side lot line. So it's not just too dissimilar from what was there before.
Yeah, and
thank you, Walter. Bruno?
Yeah, and that's precisely what our thinking was in terms of it'll look a little different. The house, obviously, it'll be a new house, but if you were to lift that other house up and basically place this new house in, it would fall fairly closely into the parameters of the old house. In terms of side yard, and the difference, of course, being the positioning of the garage and the driveway, and we've already talked about why that had to be done. So I didn't think there would be any concern, but again, I'm here to listen, but I can't see how we could move it any further to the Roslyn side, and I mean it would kind of destroy the look of the house and what the applicant has in mind and what he would like to have. So I appreciate the neighbors' concerns, but basically they're going to get what they had there before. So especially with the roof lines being what they are, height will not exceed the height limit again. So I don't know what else I can say about that.
Okay. Thank you. I'm kind of with Adam and Danielle a bit, and I heard Walter say it appeared that the old, I guess it's the east lot line was 1.4. I'm just wondering if 1.4 would be better on that side and push it, take the 0.2 and push it to Roslyn, bring that down from 3.21 to 3 even, and the side yard from 1.2 to 1.4. So basically moving it a foot, but giving you a little bit more space on that side to protect that neighbor versus Roslyn, which is essentially a streetscape. I mean, I know it sounds like splitting hairs, but I think the more you can get on that side, and there's also the hedge there that Public Works is proposing that has to be maintained and so on. So I don't know what your feeling is on that suggestion, Bruno, or your client.
Well, my client is, I'm representing him, and I think he just would be sort of surprised that there'd be that much concern over such a minor. It seems very, very insignificant, and quite frankly, I don't know if it's necessary in terms of squeezing the front of the house over even another foot. I think there's enough of a buffer there. The house was there. I don't see why they would want it moved now, but again, if you're telling us that there's no other way around it, we would have to get it redrawn. Again, cost, time. He was hoping to get this house up and going. It was deferred from January. So I don't know what to tell you. I think he would love to have it, pass as it is. So.
Okay, Danielle, question, comment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just again, I'm just going back to Google View because couldn't go back to the site. The Roslyn Street side, I guess to the south, there is a small 1-story, what appears to be sunroom. There's only one gable pitch window off of that elevation that basically veers into 4 Balmoral's side yard. The footprint, I think, of this dwelling is going to be doubled. Is that an inaccurate statement, Bruno?
I don't see the footprint as being doubled. I mean, I'd have to do the math, but that would, I think the old Balmoral footprint, you mean the footprint with the addition?
The existing house?
Yeah, probably
right now.
Footprint of
it's pretty small.
It was a small original house.
It was a pretty small original house.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But that would be the bulk of the portion that would be immediately overlooking or encroaching, if you want to use, on the neighbors there where they're.
Yeah. And then
the rest of it would be more looking into the backyard.
Yeah. So now you're going to be putting the new house in comparison to the existing house is going to be deeper in length along the Roslyn Street side yard. Now you're going up 2 stories. What my concern is with that reduced interior side yard, plus the additional windows, because again, we don't know what those floor plans are going to look like. We don't know what that elevation is going to look like. You're now having a full second story and not just one gable roof pitch window veering into what is going to be, based on just what I'm visually looking at on Street View right now, into the neighbor's backyard. It's no longer just their driveway. It's no longer just their side yard anymore. It looks like it's going to be back into their backyard. And that's just using existing trees and landmarks there because, again, all we have is a site plan to go off of. So with the limited information that we've been given, we have to make the best presumptions. And I guess, I don't know, but we have to make the best decisions that we can with the information we're given. And if we're only given a site plan, then this is the information we're given with. And I'm not convinced that 1.2 meters is appropriate or desirable based on the intensified development for this site. I'm okay with the building depth because of the length of the lot. I'm okay with an increase in lot coverage, just because you guys have been willing to work and because you want to rearrange the site to accommodate the tree and relocate the driveway. But that, and the exterior side yard setback, I'm okay with that because you're bringing it closer to the street line to, again, accommodate trees. But that interior side yard setback, because there's concerns with that neighbor, I'm not comfortable and I'm not confident with that one. So if there's no other further comments from the rest of the committee, I'm willing to make a motion at this time, Mr. Chair.
Okay, but that reduction request is from 3 meters to 1.2. So you're saying you don't agree with any reduction at all? So 3 meters completely, so 10 feet would have to be maintained on that side.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
So that would take a significant chunk off this building.
That's
just so
correct,
Bruno
Mr.
knows,
Chair.
just so you're aware of the implications. Again, Bruno, I think it would have been beneficial. I know there's a cost involved, but the significant project cost overall, I think having plans would really have benefited us and the committee to help judge it maybe in a little better light. We could have seen it. So I find it is, I agree with Danielle, it is missing, and Herb would have demanded it for sure, right?
Well,
A set of
had we-
elevations.
Again, had we known that it was out, actually required and we couldn't go ahead without it.
No, it's not.
We were
But
led
it's helpful.
I agree with you, but we were led to believe that, it seemed pretty straightforward in terms of, again, the positioning is there. 10, moving that house 10 feet would destroy the whole, it's really.
Yeah, and I agree, Bruno, and that's why I suggested maybe 1.4 or even 1.5 and then move it a foot or foot and a half.
Again, if that, I said I would be willing to work with you guys. If another foot will make things more palpable.
Palatable.
Yeah, palatable. We'll certainly push for that. But other than that, I can't see what else we can do with that. It's a nice parcel of land, and I understand.
No, it's a beautiful lot. I agree. Adam, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm definitely in agreement with Danielle, and I just recalling the first time this came before us, there was little objection from the neighbor as in terms of the side yard, and I think he was just concerned about the hedges or something. But reading the correspondence, it's obvious there's a big concern here. So I would agree with Danielle's assessment.
Dylan?
My only comment would be, I think that, I would agree with your suggestion, Mr. Chair, is to make it 1.4 and then move it to, 3 meters on the other, just sort of move it that slightly bit more to make it consistent with what it is. 3 meters is not going to work on this lot.
I agree. Okay, I think we've talked enough. Does somebody want to make a motion to that effect? One way or another? Or amending the motion as presented herein, because there's 3 variances in total. Danielle?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I would like to motion for approval. Sorry, I'm just going to pull up the resolution sheet so I read things accurately. Resolve that submission A2222 for 2 Balmoral be approved for the following variances only. For the lot coverage of 28.7% where 25 is permitted. To permit an exterior side yard of 3.21 meters, whereas 6 meters is required, and to permit a building depth of 23.2 meters, whereas 20 meters is permitted, based on the fact that the reasons of decision that the variances are minor in nature, that those variances only are appropriate for the development of the subject lands, and those variances meet the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and official plan. I moved to deny the interior side yard setback of 1.2 meters to 3 meters for the reasons as that it does meet the official plan and zoning bylaw. However, I do not feel that it is minor in nature, and I do not feel that it is appropriate for the development and use in the lands based on the correspondence received from the neighbors, as well as just based on the correspondence from the neighbors and review of the application.
Okay, so we got two motions. Why don't we deal with the first? We'll break it down into two. So if we can vote on the approvals first, that's the two, the coverage.
It should all be one motion, Mr.
Yeah, but you've got an approval and a denial. You made two motions in there. So I'm going to separate the two. Am I hearing that correctly? Because, or you're just not.
Or you can just move to approve those three variances and to remove that one variance. We can do it that way.
We'll do it that way.
Let's do it that way then.
Yep.
That would be the easiest then, yeah.
Just leave those, the coverage and the exterior side yard and the building depth. So there's three there.
Correct. And just make sure that the meeting notes do note the reason for removal, just in case the application is appealed. We want to make sure that our reasons for denial are noted.
Right.
Thank you.
And then I can still call for a motion on that last one to approve, deny, or not, but we'll deal with this one first. So do we have a seconder on the motion that Danielle raised on the first, the 3 out of 4? Let's call it that. Adam? Any further questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, if any? Was carried. And then does somebody wish to make a motion on the fourth one? To approve, deny, or amend
I will make a motion
side yard.
I will make a motion to deny the interior side yard, Mr. Chair.
Okay, seconder on that, a motion to deny. Adam? Hold on, just let me catch up here for a second because there's not enough paper here. Okay, any further question or any further discussion on the motion to deny then? All those in favor say aye or raise their hand. Opposed, if any. So it was the non-decision. So help me out here, Walter. We had this discussion, or Michaela. A tie vote because we don't have a fifth member. We don't have a, we have a quorum, but not.
You have a decision on the application, which is to approve it with only the 3 variances.
Right. And a non-decision on the.
There's no decision on the 4th variance.
Okay.
So that's your decision.
Yes, the decision is no decision. Because it's a tie vote, Bruno, I can't help you on that one. We're stuck with a split committee on it. We are missing a member. So the first 3 were approved, but of course that does change the plan significantly because that's a significant change in what would have to be designed on that property, meeting the side yard as it is now. So you'd have to meet the interior side yard.
So had that house stayed there, nothing would have changed with respect to the side yard.
Correct.
It seems kind of crazy to me that.
Well, it is still a bigger house. It's still significantly bigger.
I agree with that, but in terms of encroachment and.
Yeah, I'm, you know, that's the way the committee felt. I agree I suggested a compromise on that side yard, but the committee felt split on that. So I was willing to suggest pushing it a foot or so towards the street, but the other committee members felt that 3 meters should be maintained. So they weighed the evidence of the neighbors and gave that considerable weight in their, but it does obviously change the configuration of what can be built if you have to meet that back interior side yard. So I'd suggest maybe meeting with your client and or staff about the implications of what it's going to look like. But the 3 variances as they sit now are approved, subject to the appeal, 20-day appeal period.
Well, basically, they're worthless approvals, right? Because, it doesn't mean anything. So, and there's no other way to get around this. There's nothing else we can do. Making sure that no windows are placed on a portion.
Well, we had no elevations, to be fair to the committee. We did not know what that wall was going to look like either, that elevation. So I think in this case, it would have helped to have some idea of what was proposed there, or the outline of the building. But unfortunately, that's what the committee's stuck with it. So it's a non-decision. So I guess I have to ask Walter what if that can be brought back, just that one issue, because it was a separate motion.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
We made a decision on the entire application. The first motion was to remove that variance from the decision. So there is a decision on that variance. It was not approved.
It was not approved, but then it was voted specifically to deny, and then it was not deny. It was a tie vote. I'm going to leave that to the staff, but for now, that's the decision of the committee. So, because we've got a few more items to discuss yet this evening, so we're going to have to move on, unfortunately, Bruno.
All right. Very good.
All right. Thank you.
So what's our next course of action?
I'll let you take that up with Michaela and Walter.
Yeah.
Walter, did you want to briefly outline?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What we'll do is, based on your discussion here, we'll review it with our clerk's department to see procedurally what that means by dividing the application into 2 parts and voting on approving 3 of them, and there being a tie essentially for the 4th. So a non-decision on the 4th. So we'll clear that up with the clerk's department, and then we'll let you know, Bruno, what the conclusion is.
So as it stands, to be clear, there's a non-decision on the 4th.
Right.
It's not denied.
Right. So I have a question for you, Bruno. I recall we had a discussion about elevations, and I think you explained that they didn't want to go through the expense of doing full building plans before you got a decision of any kind?
Actually, I asked if it was necessary, and I was told that it wouldn't be necessary. I think the feeling was that it would be not that difficult to visualize a 2-story house where another basically 2-story house was. I didn't realize that, there was be that much concern about looking into a backyard as opposed to the immediate property. Any windows that might be there, as I say, could be removed. The client would certainly, honor a request like that, and provide additional privacy for a backyard. Say,
right. Do you have building plans?
Yeah, they were submitted. They're here. I can pull. I believe Michaela has a copy of those.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to move on, though.
Yeah, it's done, but
yeah, it's done. It would have been helpful, I think, but
they
whether it change the decision or not, I don't know.
I did provide the floor plans first and second. And the are they available? I mean, I just need some kind of resolution for my client. It's been a long haul here. I don't want to be pushy, but I need.
Yeah, I sympathize with you and your client.
But if you can have a quick peek at the plans, if that's the
procedurally.
I don't think we can bring it back. The decision was made. I mean, we did give you a chance to present them, and there was no offer to bring them back at that time or bring them up. So I think we're going to have to move on, unfortunately.
I believe procedurally you can, as if one of the deniers is willing to reconsider.
Well, that's in Adam or Danielle's hands then.
Do we have building plans before we do anything?
We do.
We have the building plans. Michaela?
Adam or Danielle?
Seeing the building plans, would that help at all?
Siri, did you catch that, Danielle?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Okay.
So if one of the deniers wanted to bring the application or the variance back to be heard, to reconsider it, yes, because building plans are available. But the thing is those building plans were not circulated to the public. And I don't know if those building plans would also change the public's opinion and their concerns. And my concerns are based off of that at this point in time. My decision was based off the evidence given to us up until this decision. I would not be willing to change my decision at this point in time without further public consultation. So if you want to appeal it, you can appeal it. if we want to leave it up to clerks to figure out what clerks wants to do, or if you want to come back and apply for that variance separately and go through the process of circulating those building plans and have the neighbors weigh in at that point in time. But in my opinion, we've made decisions on these variances already. I am not willing to bring it back because I do not want to open up another public consultation process without those 4 members that have written in concerns and their knowledge of those building plans, because maybe 90% of their concerns would go away.
Right.
So-
And I think Danielle raises a good point. I mean, if there were plans, I think it would wise, because there were 4 letters of opposition, to sit down with those 4 neighbors now and share them and maybe alleviate some of the concern, or come up with a mitigation or a suggestion to mitigate some of their concerns. But I think that time has passed for this committee and this decision. I think we've got to move on. I mean, we had their chance, and
I only wish that I could have addressed their concerns if had they taken the time to voice their concerns. And I mean, it's easy to write a letter, like, give us a chance to explain what we're trying to do there. None of the 4 seem to find it that important to actually show up or voice their concerns. So that kind of irks me a bit, but
Yep.
as I say, that's my opinion.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. We're going to have to move on. Sorry, Bruno,
All
that's the way it stands for now. And I suggest you take it up with the clerk and Walter or Michaela tomorrow and see what you can revive of that last one, if any.
All right. Thanks for your
Okay.
time.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Bye now.
Michaela? I guess the land consent for 260 and 270 Hunter Road.
I apologize about that. My mom has given my child sugar before bed and she's refusing to go to bed right now. All in a day's work.
Oh yeah, we've all been there, done that.
Okay, so moving to the consent item. So first application is B0122. It's for 260 and 270 Hunter Road. So this application was approved on the February 15th, 2022 meeting. And this proposal is to change, or this application has come back because the description of Part 7 was incorrect. So the application is to sever lands known as 260 and known as 270 and 260 Hunter Road. And it's subject to proposed easements described as followed. They are all the same as the previous meeting, but I'll just run through them quickly. Part 1 is 260 Hunter as the retained parcel. It's to be owned by 34 West Avenue North Hamilton Incorporated. Part 2 is for 260 Hunter, subject to an easement in favor of 270 Hunter for storm services. Part 3, 260 Hunter Road, subject to easements in favor of 270 Hunter for storm and sanitary services. Part 4, 260 Hunter, subject to easements in favor of 270 for access, storm, and sanitary services. Part 5, 260 Hunter Road, subject to easements in favor of 270 for storm services. Part 6, from 1 meter below grade and above, owned by 270, subject to above grade easements in favor of 260 for access and storm services below grade. It's owned by 260 with support and easements in favor of 270 for storm and water services, utilities, access, and maintenance. So Part 7, this is the one that there was an error in the February meeting. So it's corrected to be 260 subject to easements in favor of 270 for storm services, utilities, and maintenance. Part 8, from 1 meter below grade and above, owned by 270, subject to easements in favor of 260 for storm services, maintenance, access, and exclusive use parking. Below grade, owned by 260 with support and easements in favor of 270 for water services, utilities, maintenance, and access. Part 9, 270 Hunter Road is the severed parcel. Part 10, 270, subject to easements in favor of 260 for storm services. Part 11, 270 Hunter subject to easement in favor of 260 Hunter for storm services and access. So here is the plan submitted back in February. Same plan other than that change in description to Part 7. It was also circulated on the notice. The aerial photography showing the site and the context. For correspondence, planning does not support the application as proposed, as it does not fully comply with the town's official plan requirements for site plan approvals. From Public Works, they have no comments on the correction to the description of Part 7. They object to the proposal and to the private easements, and they offer the same recommendations as they did in February, and overall they have the same stance as they had at the February meeting. From the NPCA, there are no concerns. From Enbridge, there are no objections, but they reserve the right to amend development conditions. It's the responsibility of the applicant to verify existing gas servicing does not encroach on more than one property when subdividing or severing on an existing land parcel. And Grimsby Power, no concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt, did you wish to elaborate on, I guess, what happened here, or explain to this committee what happened? Or
certainly. Thank you, members of the committee. Great to be back. Thank you to staff, Walter and Michaela, for assisting us get back on the agenda. Our office really has to take this one on the chin. Through the real diligence we had with our project team, our surveyor, our lawyers, we had these descriptions vetted a number of times, and somehow in our initial submission letter, 260 should have said 270 in our cover letter. And from there, it was never spotted. And unfortunately, when our project team was looking to implement committee's approval, the error was realized. So with that said, I'm not sure if we really need to go through the merits of the debate again. I do have a colored image of the reference plan that was in my presentation last time, and it was identical to what Michaela had on the screen there. The way it was presented to you last time was entirely correct. The optics, the understanding that Part 7 would be owned by 260 was certainly clear in all of the debate and the discussion. It was only incorrectly noted in our submission, in the subsequent notice, and then the final decision. So with that said, I'd look for your support to make this this correction to this typo, because that's really what it is. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you. Questions for the committee members? Adam?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess the first question I have is really procedurally how this is coming back, because it does have the same application number as it did in, I guess, February. And so I'm just wondering how this gets processed normally, because my understanding, I don't know if there's a certificate of cancellation on the original consent certificate, or yeah, I'm just wondering how this has been.
Walter, I guess there really was no formal consent given because of the technicality was caught before it was registered. So it's a correction, like Matt said, a typo rather than a whole new application or a resubmission. The same cause and effect is still the cause and effect is still the same. The two buildings are being severed, but if I understand, numbers were transposed or something. Address numbers were transposed. Matt?
That's correct. So again, we inadvertently described Part 7 as being owned by 270, although in the way we relayed and presented the proposal, we certainly presented it correctly with the understanding that Part 7 was always intended to be owned by 260. Once the error was discovered, we circled back to staff and we said, this is how it's transpired. What's the best mechanism to revisit this? And the recirculation fee And just a thorough cover letter was the direction provided, and that's what we've put forward tonight.
Does that help, Adam?
Yes, thank you. Also, just to Walter, if you can just expand a little bit about the concerns with the private or crossing the sewage, crossing the parcel.
Yeah, thank you through you, Mr. Chair. The concern was essentially in support of our public works staff's position that it's the town's practice to not, when there's the availability to provide the service along a public road to a new lot, that their preference is to not have an easement over an existing lot to service the new lot, if you know what I mean. So their preference was to provide the service down Hunter Road and connect it to 270 Hunter Road. So essentially that was, the applicants preferred to do it by easement. Our public works indicated that their practice or their policy was to have all services based on severances to be serviced independently from the public right of way.
Okay, thanks. And I guess second question is, would that opinion be stronger because of the use of the brewery, I guess, discharging a lot more water perhaps?
Yeah, I don't believe that played a factor in that recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Danielle?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Adam actually asked the question, but I don't feel like it was fully answered yet. How are we processing this application? It's under the same file number. I understand, Matt, you said that this was coming in through a revision and we're doing it just to correct a typo, but we've rendered a decision. The appeal period has come and gone. Therefore, are we not just doing another decision, and we're not just fixing a typo, we're actually reviewing and reapproving a fulsome application. Is that correct? Yeah, I apologize. I know in theory the application has already been approved, but the approval is going to be fulsome again. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, this is as if it's a new application. It's just that's why we needed to recirculate, do the full circulation, have a full hearing, and get a new decision with the new description of the application.
With
Thank
the
you.
correction.
And I just
Right.
With the correction.
Okay. And I just wanted to be consistent in how we rendered a decision before. We should probably be voting similarly how we did before. And as I was not supportive of the application before based on planning comments with this not meeting the official plan, I will also not be in support of the application. Understanding that this time it is only based on a technicality, but planning's report and public works report is not supportive of the application. So I will not be supportive of it around to be consistent with my previous recommendation as before. So thank you.
Right. Now, the reality of it is, unfortunately, if I recall, it was a 3-2 vote and Herb is missing. So we potentially have a non-decision again. So I'm just going to make the suggestion in the interest of the client here and moving along to recognize the previous decision that was made. However, I can't force anybody to turn or change their mind. I'm now of the opinion that the same cause and effect is the severance of 2 buildings, which was the intent last time. It's the intent this time. There was no appeal by staff. If they felt strongly about it at that time, they could have appealed it. They didn't feel warranted. I don't feel making the client or the owners of the 2 properties who are institutional investors reconstruct brand new or perfectly good services that don't go underground. An existing building can be serviced and repaired through technology, through video cameras and so on, to redo those services just to go out to the Hunter Road versus crossing properties that were once owned or still owned by the same property. So I'm going to suggest that I know it's a bit of a dilemma, but for for practical reasons, I'm going to suggest that we approve it. But again, I can't force anybody to change their mind on this. The reality is we're stuck with 4 members tonight rather than 5. So anybody else have a comment on the application? Or Matt, did you wish to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, it would certainly be appreciated if this would be viewed in the light that it's being presented. You know, it really is correcting the typo. So the committee supported the application a few months ago. They supported it with the understanding that Part 7 was owned by 260. So let's just clean that up and move on. I can, you know, should we not have the votes tonight, we'd be in a really tough spot. I mean, I'd really prefer not to need a deferral and have to come back again. But you know, the current decision just isn't entirely usable. We can't implement it. So denying it would essentially put us back to square one. And again, we've already got a positive position from the committee. Hopefully we can land there again tonight.
We're just having some technical difficulties here. I see Michaela's on twice, so just bear with us a minute here.
We can continue. It's just I have a notification saying my computer's going to shut down in an hour. So trying to avoid that. So please continue.
Well, we're hoping to get out of here by then, but
yeah.
Again, I'd like to reiterate for the credibility of the committee, just to correct the technicality. I think you know, for the public perception of playing by the, you know, I don't want to change my vote, stick by it. I think it's just going to defer it. When Herb comes, he's going to be in the same position, and everybody sticks to their vote. So we just kick it down the road for a month. I don't know if that serves any purpose or the greater good here. So. But I'm going to let someone make the motion. I don't see any other hands up, so I will call for the motion. Anybody? Dylan?
Hi. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think that we need to just proceed and approve it as we did last time. So you know, looking at, I mean, it's an extremely long motion, Mr. Chair, so I would vote in favor of
as read, as submitted in the motion. Okay,
as
with
read.
with the conditions
with conditions, yes,
that have not changed, as I understand. They look all like they're all the standard conditions. So, all right, for the sake of brevity, we'll take that. And a seconder, and I'll second the motion then. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, if any? Non-decision. So, Matt, unfortunately, we're left with kicking it down to the next meeting, and hopefully everybody sticks to their previous ones and you get a 3-2 vote. But for now, it's in deferral or a non-decision, I guess.
Thank you. It is
That's the unfortunate situation.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, perhaps we can get some clarity when this comes back again, because I would like some clarity on, you know, I know that this is a typo, but the whole thing has come back. And so let's say next time round, a member changes their vote to the negative. Can we then vote negative on something we've already approved in the positive? Because, you know, because I mean, again, this is just to me a procedural thing, because could everything have could only Part 7 have come back to us and then everything else, do you know what I mean? Or does it have to be the whole thing? Because I find this rather.
Well, I find the whole cause and effect. I mean, the whole gist of the application is to fix a correction that was voted on by a committee, and now just stick to your guns just for the sake of sticking to your guns. When the decision was made, it's going to be inevitable that, like you say, it's a typo. It's I don't know. I just find it doesn't serve anybody for the public good, I guess, is a way to put it.
Yeah, no, I just wanted sort of, when this comes back next time, again, the assumption will be that those who voted in favor and those who voted against will do this again. But should things change between now and then, and suddenly someone changes it to a 3-2 in the negative, is that, do you know what I mean? Is what would happen then? We would then turn down something that we've technically already approved. So I'm not 100% sure. We don't need to deal with it now. I just
Right.
Yeah.
That would be
next time,
something
if we can just have some
be prepared for.
eyes on this going forward.
Yep.
Yeah.
Walter?
Yeah, the decision was for something different because the description of the application was different than what you considered tonight. So essentially, it's a different application.
Technically, it is, yes, Walter, but the same cause and effect of severing
Right,
the two
exactly.
buildings.
I'm saying it again to what he said. You know, the way he described it at the meeting may have been correct. It's just the way it was worded in the actual resolution was, and the way it was submitted with the application was wrong. So,
right.
Right.
And with all due respect, Mr. Chair, I wasn't making those statements just to stick with my guns. I was making my decision based off the planning report and based off of Public Works comments.
Right.
It wasn't meant to be rude. It wasn't meant to be, you know, based on the
Rude.
fact
I didn't
that
say it was rude.
rude.
No, it wasn't meant to be. I wasn't calling you rude. I'm just saying that if everybody stuck to the original vote, it would have been a 3-2 vote. We could move on. And it was obviously a clerical error. It was not.
Oh, yes,
that the
you made your point
application
very
came
clear
back.
during the
Right.
meeting that it was going to be a split vote tonight. But the
Right.
fact of the matter is, you know, it doesn't meet the official plan. And that's a major point of contention when
Right.
you're looking at land severances, lot
Right.
creation, or even easement creation. And that is the reason why I believe Adam and I made our decision. So to make the statement that we were just trying to stick to our guns, I feel is extremely inappropriate. So that's just my comments.
That's your opinion. That's fine. Walter, I thought, no, did Walter have his hand up or did Adam? It's down now. So, okay, so that's it. We're going to call for the next application, right? Michaela, ready?
Sorry, we can put a setting on that I can't see if they don't have their video on. Can someone just let me know if about 4 people got admitted? Okay, because I don't see anyone in the waiting room, so we should be good. Thank you. All right. So our last application of the night is B0222. It's 328 Main Street West, and this is an application for the creation of a new lot. And here is the proposed drawing. It's the same one that was circulated on the notice as submitted by the applicant. Here is the subject parcel, as well as the surrounding area for context. Here is the current site conditions as of March 2021, taken from Google Maps. As for correspondence, from planning, no objections to the approval of the application as proposed. Public Works, no concerns with the severance, subject to the submission of a grading and servicing plan by the applicant to the satisfaction to the Director of Public Works. Heritage impact assessment and tree preservation plan will be required at the site plan stage. From the Conservation Authority, no concerns. From Enbridge, no objections. They reserve the right to amend development conditions. Responsibility of the applicant is to verify existing gas servicing does not encroach on more than one property when subdividing or severing an existing land parcel. Grimsby Power, they note that Grimsby Power owns an underground service wire on this property. The applicant will have to confirm the proposed severance will not create a condition where the service wire is crossing a lot to service the adjacent lot. And if so, the applicant must relocate the service wire or provide an easement in favor of Grimsby Power. And just to follow up on that, the applicant has been working with Grimsby Power to locate that underground wire. And then we have two letters from neighbors. So one is from 326 Main Street West. I believe he's in attendance tonight, so I will let him address his concerns when he's called upon later. Got a letter from a neighbor at 69 Chestnut. They were unable to be in attendance. They had concerns about flooding and water runoff due to the elevated grading. The height of the prospective buildings due to the elevated grading, and the location of the prospective buildings on the lot, just how far back they would be. And there was another person who was not able to stay late, so they sent their comments in as an email, and they have concerns with the frontage, and they also say the trestle on the above mentioned property hasn't been cared for many years. The one that is in the back of the property away from the park appears to be falling and at risk of causing future damage. We'd like to suggest that Losani have those trees inspected, and if they are removed, to consider replacing along the back fence line to maintain the existing privacy between neighbors. I'll just share that on my screen so everyone can see quickly. Has everyone had enough time to take a look? Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Michaela. Is the applicant's agent here? Is it Travis? Are you going to speak to the application?
Yeah, sure. I can be brief. Am I allowed to 5 minutes?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. I'll be succinct as possible. What you have before you is an application proposing to sever the lot into two. Both lots are compliant at 15.6 meters. Similarly, compliant on the zoning development standard for lot area. As you all know, key objective of the Grimsby official plan is that new development respect and reinforce the general physical patterns in the neighborhood. It goes on to further state that applications for consents on smaller infill properties provide lots which maintain the established rhythm of lot sizes. And that's a way for the town to respect and reinforce the pattern along the street. Noting the letter that we were just shared, I understand someone might be disappointed, but what you have before you is a lot which is wholly compliant with the zoning bylaw. It has regard for 5124 of the Planning Act. The proposed lots would strengthen and support the character of the neighborhood. The absence of variances demonstrates this, shows that it's compatible with the existing physical character of the neighborhood. We've had meetings with staff where we understand their position on site plan and what they'll be requesting at that stage. As it stands, it conforms with the official plan. Dimensions, shapes of the lots are in keeping with the neighborhood. And any future proposed homes are going to be have regard for the residential zoning standards. That's all I had prepared.
Thank you. I guess we're going to open it up to members of the committee first for questions, and then we'll open it up to other people in the audience that would like to speak to this application. So I see Adam has his hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wondering if the consultant can clarify if the proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement.
Yeah, so official plans are supposed to be in keeping with provincial policy, the provincial policy statement. So by virtue of being compliant with the official plan, it is compliant with the provincial policy statement.
Because my reading of the PPS, this application should have been accompanied by a heritage impact assessment because of its proximity to, I guess it's 326, which is a protected heritage property.
Well, I disagree with that. Keep in mind that there is a site plan approval forthcoming for this application. So that would be the more appropriate place to review a heritage impact assessment.
Actually, I can quote you here. It says, development is, by definition in the PPS, includes creation of a new lot. The section 2.63 says, planning authorities shall not permit development, which would include creation of a lot, and site alteration on adjacent lands to protected heritage property, except where the proposed development and site alteration has been evaluated and has been demonstrated the heritage attributes of the protected heritage property will be conserved.
Okay, in response to that, I'll just point out that it hasn't been identified what the impact of severing a lot would be on the heritage home.
Yeah, so you haven't demonstrated that there's going to be no negative effects to the heritage attributes at 326.
By virtue of a lot severance, if we come in with a home that's zoning compliant, I'd have trouble understanding what the argument against it would be.
But yeah, as part of the provincial policy statement, we do have to evaluate in context of the application. Unfortunately, the application hasn't met it at this point.
Okay, so, thanks for your comments, Adam. And I had a question sort of related to Adam's. I see on the website from the town too, there's a pre-consultation requirement and a site plan requirement. Specifically, a site plan must be submitted with the application. We just had a previous application tonight where they didn't submit full elevation drawings, but they did at least have a site plan of what they're proposing. I don't see any proposal on these two lots. I don't know if they're going to be 2-story, 1-story. And I think that kind of goes to Adam's point about impact on heritage. You're creating two smaller lots. So is there a site plan that you can show us this evening that would shed some light on what you're proposing on these two lots and help us weigh them? And was, I guess, part two of that is, was there a formal pre-consultation taken with town staff on this application? So just those two questions.
Sure. We did have a meeting with staff where engineering and planning and heritage staff were present. I don't have a site plan to share with you. Our commitment is to design homes that are going to be zoning compliant. That the proper stage for that review is at the site plan stage. And that's why via our conversations with planning staff, it was agreed that these would be required at that stage, as that is the final approval authority to the chief planner.
But so you've had a meeting with staff, but was it a formal pre-consultation meeting where you pay a fee and it's circulated and staff are required to attend, like certain departments and so on? So was it a formal pre-consultation, or was it just a casual meeting with a few of the different departments? I guess that's the question. And two, it leads me to the site plan issue. The variances may be required on this lot once created, depending on where you situate the lot or the building, because the front yard setback is going to be dependent on the front setback of the adjacent properties. If you look at the adjacent property, it's quite a ways back. So trying to meet the bylaw, you're going to require a significant variance depending on which lot goes first. So there's all kinds of a cause and effect here, depending on which property. We've had this on Strathern, another application for a severance or an infill. You get into these tricky little infills where you're going to come back to this committee again for a variance if we don't approve it all at once, I guess. But that would help if you had, or having a site plan would have helped. So I guess it's a comment and a question, but I also saw that Danielle, I think, had her hand up. Sorry, it's down now.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. You had actually asked my question for me, so thank you.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Anybody else from the committee? I guess I had a question or a comment too. In staff's report, I know it was amended, but they did provide a table of lot frontages and depths. I just want to make a comment on that. I know the bylaw is technically made or will comply in terms of frontage and area. The RD3, I think it is, it will meet those. The two new lots will meet those, as you stated. I'm not sure about the variances will be required for the setback, but one of the key factors in the official plan is, in the planning department or the planning staff state that new lots shall maintain the established rhythm of lot sizes and frontages of adjacent housing. If I look at that list on page 2 of their report in table 1, I see a significant amount of very large lots. If I look at kind of the lot areas, even before the lot severed, the 1,601, let's say, square meters, only one of those lots on Main Street, up and down, I'm going to say 10 houses in either direction, is smaller than that. So even before the severance, there's the lot significantly smaller in terms of lot area. In terms of lot frontage, I'm going to say it's 50-50. Some are smaller, some are larger than the 31 meters that exist prior to the severance. So I'm not sure it meets that rhythm of lot sizes and frontages and doesn't really fit the character of Main Street. That's my opinion as one member. I'm just offering that up for, I think this table is very helpful in weighing the facts and the evidence on what's happening on Main Street. I know we've had historically an application down the street at Garden in Maine where they tried to sever 3 lots off the front of that Jeffrey's house, it's known as, which was going to create potentially precedent. I know we can't consider precedents in these decisions. They each have to stand on their own, but I think it goes to the rhythm of the Main Street. So that's my comment for this. And I see there's a few members of the public that may wish to speak.
Do you mind if I speak?
Yeah,
to
sorry, go ahead. Maybe you can respond to that first. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. On the comment of rhythm, I guess the easiest question to ask is if the zoning bylaw is to implement the official plan, and within that zoning bylaw there are development standards, and if someone meets those development standards, they, by virtue of meeting them, meet the intent of the official plan. I'm at a loss to how the rhythm is what is captured within the zoning bylaw. So although it may be smaller than another lot, it's inconsequential. It's the town of Grimsby's own zoning bylaw.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get into a point of arguing about lot frontages when there's no variance for lot frontage.
Nope, fair point. Danielle, oh, sorry, I gotta have Danielle. We'll finish up with committee members first and then open it up to the public. Go ahead, Danielle.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to make a comment to that, Travis, zoning bylaws set out performance standards and specific land uses. As you know, like official plans set out urban design guidelines. They set out a lot of other regulations that we have to look at. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you meet the zoning bylaw doesn't mean a consent is appropriate. There's a lot of other things to look at than just a zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw is applicable law. It doesn't set out your guidelines, your regulations for appropriate development. So that is what the committee has to take in consideration. Just because a lot can be created there doesn't mean it should be created there, doesn't mean it's appropriate to be created there, doesn't mean it meets all the other regulations for lot creation, for heritage, for impacts, for design, for everything else that the town of Grimsby's official plan sets out for I don't know, Main Street, for I don't know, I work in the city of Burlington. I know the city of Burlington official plan has many other policy regulations beyond the zoning bylaw, of which I implement. So that being said, that's just my retort to that as a committee member. So yeah, just as an experienced person in planning, you know, just because you can doesn't mean you should, is something that I'm always told. So I think at this time, Mr. Chair, we should probably, or unless, sorry, Travis wants
Do you
to,
mind if
but-
I quickly?
We'll let
definitely.
Travis, go ahead, Travis, you can respond and then we'll open it up to, Nick's got his hand.
Sorry, I guess this question is to the chair. Is there not a report on file from planning staff in support of this application?
There is.
And follow-up would be planning staff who are interested to review applicable policy and make recommendations to the committee?
Yeah, for clarification, the planning staff do not object to the approval. So they're not saying they support it, they just don't object to the approval. But that is one of the things that we weigh in our decision.
Okay,
We weigh that report, other comments, and comments from members of the public. So with that, I'm going to open it up to members of the public. Nick has his hand up. Nick, go ahead. Can we just get your name and address for the record, Nick?
Yeah, my name is Nick DeFlavio, and I live at 335 Main Street West. So I had a few comments. I was part of the planning committee when this first came through back in 2007, 2008. And one of the reasons why I'm here is to provide some background and some context for this lot for the committee. That lot was already part of a severance. It was divided from the Westbrook Nurseries greenhouses that were there and part of the subdivision that was developed there by Lozani Homes back in 2008, 2009. Originally, this was supposed to be all parkland, according to the committee, and that was what was recommended by Recreation Services. But the developer lobbied for and was successful in getting the park moved mostly to the north. So if you're familiar with Chestnut, there's a stormwater management land there and park, and the park was made smaller. This lot was left large for a reason. It's on Main Street. The adjacent properties, not just the one at 326, but the other one to the east, and then the one on the other side of the park are both significant, all three of those are significant, large heritage properties that have historical value in the town of Grimsby, but also create a streetscape in Main Street West that is kind of what Grimsby is all about. You know, it's kind of what the intent was to protect the streetscape of Main Street West here. The large lot size was there for a reason. If council had wanted 2 lots here, and if Lozani Homes had applied for 2 lots in this spot, that would have been denied in that original proposal. It was left as a large lot because, as you know, the 326 next door is a huge lot. The chair already mentioned a very important point, and that is already this lot is the second smallest lot in the area without a severance, without dividing it in half. It's already the second smallest lot in the area. The other one was already one that was part of a severance back in the 70s. It was a smaller lot. So splitting this in half would significantly, in my opinion, alter the streetscape of Main Street West. You know, if you drive from the Esso station westward, you see large lot, and then you would see 2 smaller lots. And I understand that there is flexibility there, absolutely, and the setback will be important. But in this particular case, I know that lot was left that size specifically to protect the streetscape of Main Street. The only other thing I wanted to say is the way that Wolverton Road and where Wolverton Road comes to Main Street there is right at that lot. So the exit of the one driveway that hopefully will be left after this meeting, not two driveways, will be very important as well, because there will be safety issues with the way that this property interacts with Main Street and of course Wolverton Road across the street. Dave Heatherton, who is the neighbor there in the Heritage home, had to go pick up his son from work, but he did write an email, and I think it's in the report, I believe, the email. I know that probably everybody already read it, and a lot of the other comments that I was going to make were already mentioned. So thank you for the opportunity to speak, and that's all I have to say. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Nick. And just before I go to the next speaker, you just reminded me of another point I was going to bring up, because that was right out of the severance implementation policy, the official plan, because I'm in that neighborhood too, close by. 9.17.4, road access. Lots shall not be created which would access onto a road where a traffic hazard would be created due to limited sight lines and or curves or grades. That is a significant hazard where Wolverton comes down at that elevation. I'm sure whoever owns the red house, I call it the red house, can probably speak to cars ending up on their front lawn because of the grade elevation, and adding a new driveway right at that intersection. It's already a hazard, in my opinion. And I know Nick lives very close to that intersection as well. Has probably seen a few close calls of people trying to turn left up Wolverton and others coming down and around and dodging around. So I just find that that's another kind of point against creating a new lot that doesn't meet the official plan implementation. But again, that's a comment I meant to make earlier. Sorry. Olia, is it Olia? You have your hand up?
Yeah, how's my audio?
Fine.
Okay, good. I just want to thank the committee for giving me an opportunity to speak, and I apologize. I'm going to try not to repeat anything that's been said, but I kind of prepared a written, so I hope I'm not going to be repeating too much. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'd like to begin by framing for you the context of the lot in question. And my comments will focus on the north-facing side of the street, which is the location where the subject lot is, given that there are documents of the towns in place that demonstrate that this main street represents a transition zone between the escarpment landscape and the historic Highway 8. So aside from the Wolverton Parquet on its immediate west, which has already been touched upon and itself pays tribute to a prominent Grimsby historical family, the lot at 328 is nestled between two other heritage homes. On the west, the imposing Georgian home known as Green Trees, built circa 1829 by Andrew Pettit Jr. And on the east, the impressive red brick Victorian home built by Andrew Hamilton Pettit circa 1880. In fact, its immediate neighbor to the right, the red brick home, is identified as a character-defining example of the town's own report, Grimsby's Special Places, Significant Cultural Heritage Landscapes in the Town of Grimsby. If you pull up that report, you'll see that house is pictured in the report. Beyond its immediate neighbors, this lot is part of a continuous string of heritage homes stretching from Casablanca all the way to Roberts Road, comprised entirely of heritage homes with exception to one modern home and the gas station. A significant defining feature of these homes are the abundant lot sizes on which they are situated. As well, predominantly the majority have generous setbacks. In concert, each of these individual attributes, being the heritage homes, their abundant lot sizes, and the generous setbacks, depict the prosperity of the tenderfruit farming industry that Grimsby was once world-renowned for. Indeed, what you see when you're taking a walk or a Sunday cruise down this section of Maine fits squarely into the town's and the province's own definition of what constitutes a cultural heritage landscape. Under this backdrop, I wish to express my opposition to the requested severance due to its incompatibility with the surrounding neighborhood. In support of my opposition, I would like to draw your attention to the following town, region, and provincial policies and guidance. From the official plan under section 3.4, under residential neighborhoods, the intent is to protect and enhance the existing character of Grimsby's neighborhoods, while at the same time permitting some forms of new development that is compatible with the existing development. Under section 7.3 of the official plan, additional streetscape features for Main Street require preservation to the greatest extent remnants of agricultural activity and other natural features within the site and along the street edge and at the escarpment. From the Town of Grimsby's report of special places, significant cultural heritage landscapes in the Town of Grimsby under Section 9 recommendations, it says that consideration of any proposed changes or infill to be designed to support the character of the CHL. Under Section 6.4E of the same report, which identifies Main Street West as a significant cultural heritage landscape, one of the key defining attributes of this landscape are the generous lot sizes and the juxtaposition of the escarpment against Main Street. From the regional plan, Chapter 10 objectives are to support the conservation of significant cultural heritage landscapes. Paragraph 10.c.1.5 to conserve significant cultural heritage landscapes. And from the provincial policy statement, Section 2.6.1 directs that significant built heritage resources and significant cultural heritage landscapes shall be conserved. Lastly, I'd like to point out from the staff report that table, which the chair found to be useful. I did additional number crunching and would like to point to the fact that, as it already has been noted, it's this severance would make it by far the smallest, but currently it's already the smallest. A context I'd like to highlight for you is that already from an unsevered form, this lot is 6 meters narrower than the frontage of the average of all of these lots, being unsevered. If it were to be severed, it would be less than half of the average lot frontage of all of the properties on the north side facing from Roberts to Casablanca, where the average is 35 meters. That's all I had for my submission. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And I'll have Travis respond first.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about heritage going on right now. Normally, we're talking about heritage when there's buildings involved. I'd just like to give a little bit of history. The neighboring home at 326 is actually a home that was renewed by our company. This is a home that was built, completely done to a T to meet heritage context. We've done numerous homes within the town of Grimsby. If there's concern about whether any proposed home would meet that same standard, I can assure you this is not something we take lightly. For it to be a question that we would be proposing something not in line with the home that was just cited as being of significance is it's not correct.
Through Chair, do I have the chance to respond?
No, that's okay. Is that it, Travis?
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Olivia, just one response, if you'd like.
Of course. Yeah. Notwithstanding that the applicant is the one who restored the home next door, at the time, the company had boasted about its pride for heritage and had a section on its website to that effect, and no longer does so today, to the best of my research. In addition to that, this is the first mention of the applicant or their agent of anything to do with heritage. All of the language preceding this time in the meeting had everything to do with compliance to policies and zoning. So it's difficult to reconcile those statements in light of that.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm going to first have Dave go and then Nick. Dave, you have your hand up. I can't see your face, but I see a Dave.
Yes, hi, it's Dave's wife, Erin. Olia, well said, and thank you.
So could we just get your name? Sorry, could we just get your name and address for the record as well?
Yes,
I forgot
Dave and I live at 326 Main Street West. So in fact, the house that was quote unquote restored by Lasagna, and I will in fact say, moreover, they modernized and did nothing to restore the structure. I just want to make that known. It was modernized, and that is the concern I think Olia's raised as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And where did Nick go? Oh, Nick. Sorry, did you still have your hand up, Nick?
Sorry, I lowered my hand because you acknowledged it, so I didn't want I didn't want to keep my hand up for you. The only other thing I was going to say was that the house was restored because of an insistence by the town. So, you know, the easiest thing to do would have been to tear that house down, and we insisted that it be preserved. And the restoration or the renovation was beautiful. It was, you know, there was an open house when it was completed, and it was lovely, but they would have been torn down if it wasn't because of insistence of the town and staff at the time. So, you know, respectfully.
Thank you. All right, Travis, did you have anything else to say? Otherwise, I don't see anybody else's hand up. I'm going to see if anybody else has another comment or question, then we'll call for a motion. No? All right, then do we have a motion on this current application? Oh, Nick, one more time? Or is that by accident?
I'm so sorry. No, that was on purpose.
Oh.
It was a procedural question because, and I'm going to let you vote really quick. It's just other neighbors wanted to participate in the meeting, but didn't register. And this is a public meeting. So shouldn't the Zoom link be public so people can join the meeting along the way? I don't know how that works, and I apologize for asking the question in the middle of your vote.
Yep.
But they texted me and said I wanted to be a part of it, but I didn't know I had to register in advance. So just for future, I was probably in the original letter that was sent out.
Yeah, it was. It was in the formal notice, and hopefully we're coming to an end of this, and it won't be a problem going forward that they're back in person. But I take your point out. It's a little awkward if you didn't get the notice and see the reference that you had to register a link. And then the problem is too, having so many people on the screen. That's why we put everybody in the waiting room and bring them on just for this specific application. But it does make it a little harder for people, especially elderly people that want to just show up, so to speak, at the meeting. But
I can tell you that everybody on the street is watching right now. They're just not able to participate because they didn't have the Zoom link. So thank you,
Gotcha.
Mr. Chair. I apologize for interrupting.
Thank you. Walter?
Yeah. Oops. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarity, because the question was specifically asked, the reason why we require people to register is to ensure that random people don't just drop in and participate in a very inappropriate way, if you know what I mean. So there are many examples of Zoom meetings that were proliferated by people with nefarious intents. So that's the reason why it's by invitation only.
Thank you for that, and hopefully we're coming to an end to this. All right, any other further comments or questions on this current application? If not, then can we have a motion from somebody? Not all at once. To approve or deny or amend.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to deny the application based on the concerns raised by the neighboring residents. Actually, sorry, Mr. Chair, before I make a motion, may I put an option forward to the applicant to defer the application to possibly come forward with some additional information to the committee to address some of the concerns raised. That being said, possibly start preparing some plans, possibly bring forward a heritage impact assessment before the Heritage Committee. I'm sorry, I apologize. Do we still have a Heritage Committee? I don't want, is that a precarious question at this point in time? Walter, so we do still have a Heritage Committee. To possibly alleviate some of the concerns, to provide some sort of comfort level for the committee to proceed. I'm seeing some head shaking no. I look like I'm not getting much support on this.
I'm not going to support that because I think the heritage is more than just the building. I think it's the lot character and size, and
And
we've
that's
had a
kind
lot
of what
evidence.
I was thinking
Yeah.
as well too, as I'm talking out loud. So, and my biggest concern, and I do live right around the corner. I walk actually by this lot daily because I have friends that live on Chestnut and I live just off of Roberts. So my biggest concern is actually going to be the traffic concerns with Wolverton and the impacts of having two driveways here with that intersection. So based on that is I don't think that this is an appropriate development of this lot to sever this. And based on that, I move for this application to be denied or be refused.
Okay. Seconder on that motion to deny. Dylan? Any further discussion on the motion to deny? All those in favor say aye, which is deny. Opposed, if any, was carried. So it was refused. There is a 20-day appeal period before it becomes final and binding. Thanks, everyone. And I believe that is the end of the meeting this evening. So we are adjourned.
Mr. Chair, just before
before
we adjourn, would it be possible I just need to have a brief chat with the committee members and staff. It's not regarding any of the business today, just in regards to meeting management.
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay.
Dylan,
Thanks, everybody.
Dylan, can we stop the live stream or?
Yes. Yeah. No, it's not related to any of the business today.
Okay. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.